Hey everyone, and welcome back on the channel. My name is Alex with Meta Endurance. In today's video, we have probably the most exciting video for 2025. It's the comparison between the 6 top racing shoes of this year. We have the Puma Fast R-3, the Hoka Rocket X3, the Brooks Hyperion Elite 5, the Nike Vaporfly 4, the Asics Metaspeed Edge Tokyo, and last but not least, the Adidas Adios Pro 4. They either released this year or at least were very, promoted, popular this year. And we're not comparing them just based on my feelings. We actually compare them with metrics, and that's thanks to Stryd, the sponsor of this video. Stryd is a foot pod that you attach to your shoes. You can either have 1 or 2, and depending on what you're looking for, they will have answers for you. First of all, Stryd is allowing you to train with power. That means that you can train with a metric that takes everything into account. Training by heart rate or pace is not wrong, but training by power is so much more efficient and so much more scientifically true. Second, then you have data, which you can analyze, and you can compare shoes in between them, you can compare sessions in between them, and you can see your progress in time. And last but not least, if you have 2 foot pods, the new Stryd 5.0 allows to do just that, and it just released. You can have the foot path visualization, meaning that you can see how your gait cycle is impacted by different sessions, different paces, different shoes, and you can compare things in between. You can compare yourself in time, which is also super interesting. In any event, thank you so much, Stryd, for sponsoring this video, and without no further ado, let's dive in. We're gonna do this video in 3 parts. First of all, I'm gonna share my feelings with these shoes, some words about each of them just to give you my initial reactions when I did the test in them. Second, we'll look at data, hard data. It's just facts recorded by the Stryd pods. And last but not least, we'll compare the 2 best shoes out of these in terms of foot path visualization. Without no further ado, let's dive into the first section. I'm going to go in alphabetical order, meaning I'm going to start with the Adidas Adios Pro 4. It's a shoe that feels soft, very efficient. I love the fit. I feel really well in this shoe. I have my marathon PB in it, which might be a bias, but I really like it. I really like how it feels. However, I noticed in the run that I did for the test, which was 3 loops around the local track, with each of them, so about 1,200 meters with each, that the Adios Pro 4 was losing a bit of that amazing feeling of the midsole, meaning the aging, the durability of the midsole might not be ideal. Second, we have the Asics Metaspeed Edge Tokyo, for which I have an actual crush. I really enjoy the way it feels underfoot. I have always been a fan of the Edge in the Metaspeed lineups over the years. This one feels special. There's something about it that I just love. It does run a bit long, however, so make sure that you go half a size down. This would be my recommendation. Then we have the Brooks Hyperion Elite 5, still alphabetical order. This is smooth. This is really for heel strikers who want to roll forward, have a very smooth feeling, and for the marathon distance, I think this is also the safest choice. Then we move to the Hoka Rocket X3, which is probably the biggest letdown in terms of sensations feel. It does run a bit short, which doesn't help with the sensations, but it's also the shoe with which I had the feeling I had to push the most on my toes, on my feet, on my legs to move forward, and therefore I didn't really enjoy it in terms of experience as such. I probably wouldn't race a marathon in it. This was tested at in between, marathon, half marathon pace. The most important thing was to have the same watts, the same amount of power that I was generating over the 3 laps with each of the shoes. We're within 1 or 2 watts of difference in between them. And then the pace was the output factor that I'm going to share with you here in a second. Then we had the Nike Vaporfly 4. I really hate the fit of this shoe. I cannot get a good lockdown. It's either too much pressure or not enough lockdown and some heel movement, which is killing the experience. It's very direct, lots of ground feel. It's probably not the most cushioned experience, but if you're a lighter runner, I think you will have enough cushion in this shoe. It's aggressive. It's an aggressive shoe for probably faster marathon runners. And then the shoe that made a lot of noise this year, the Puma Fast R-3. It was tested as the best shoe in terms of running economy in many labs by Puma and some other people. And yes, it does feel special. It also does feel very narrow, and the foot stride gait cycle that you have to adopt in order to run in it makes you change a bit the way you run, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but something to consider. So this is my, kind of feelings after the test, after the run. And now let's look at data. We'll go data by data and we'll compare the different shoes with these numbers. First of all, power. I mentioned this was the most important thing, the input factor for the test. I was shooting for about 330 watts, and then the first shoe I tested was kind of the benchmark. So again, we'll go alphabetical order. We have 329 watts, 328 watts, 327, 328, 328, 328. So as you can see, we're in a good test environment. I think the numbers that we will share right after can be considered as true, since the power output was, as an input, was very, very, very close. There's a 2 watt difference between the highest and the lowest values here in this sample. Paces, meaning how the power was translated into speed. We have 3 minutes 37 per kilometer, 3:37, 3:33, the fastest, 3:41, 3:39, 3:44, the slowest, and 3:40. The fastest shoe was the Metaspeed Edge Tokyo. The slowest shoe was the Nike Vaporfly 4. The difference in between the two is 11 seconds per kilometer, and in between you have the other shoes. Cadence. Cadence is steps per minute. It's actually a good proxy to understand how responsive a shoe is, how it makes you run. Some shoes require you to have a higher step count because they do not absorb as much energy. They are a bit harder to run in, and you automatically generate more steps. Some other shoes are lowering that number. It's very close, 170, 171, 170, 171, 170, 169. I don't think there's much to comment upon here, but again, I think it's interesting to have this data in mind. Then we're looking at form power. Form power is what Stryd is measuring as a component of your total power output. The total power output is the power that you're generating to move forwards, the air resistance, so the air power, and then form power, which is the power that you're generating vertically. It's a simplification of the actual way Stryd aggregates power, but it allows you to understand a bit what it is. Form power is basically how much power goes into your running form. The higher the number, the poorer your running form is. Again, we're very close, 75, 76, 75, 75, 75, 76. Not much to say. The running form was pretty much the same. The form power output says that the running form was pretty much the same in all of these shoes. We'll compare with the two better ones, or my favorite ones, at the end in terms of footpad visualization, because this is also where you can see the movement of the shoes in 3D. Then we have ground contact time. Ground contact time is a great proxy for responsiveness. The less time you spend against the ground, the more time you spend in the air, and technically the better it is. So we're looking for the lowest number, and we have 192, 190, 197, 191, 196, 199. So the lowest value is with the Metaspeed Edge Tokyo, and the highest value is with the Puma Fast R-3. The numbers are very close. We have a 9 millisecond difference between these two shoes, but again, the Metaspeed Edge, also because it was providing with a faster pace and I was spending more time in the air, has the lowest value here and is, in theory, the more responsive shoe, the most responsive shoe, sorry. Then we're looking at LSS. LSS is leg spring stiffness, and it's measured in kilonewton per meter. What is LSS? LSS is a representation of how much energy is stored in your leg, just like a spring would store the energy, and how then it has the ability to release it. The higher the number, the better. We have 9.9, 9.6, 10, 10, 10, and 9.7. So in theory, these three shoes have the better LSS numbers, and the three here have the lower LSS numbers. And here comes the bias of this test. The three shoes that have the lowest numbers are the three that I tested last, meaning that I started with the Brooks, I went to the Hoka, I went then to the Nike, alphabetical order, but starting with the Brooks essentially, and then I went Puma, Adidas, Asics. The three last shoes of the test have the lowest numbers, meaning that it's not necessarily the shoes, it's my legs that were fatigued and that provided with lower numbers. This is the explanation here. I would assume that all of them would be 10 or 10.1, probably, had I tested them AB, BA, as probably I should do in the future for these videos. Vertical oscillation. What is vertical oscillation? It is the difference in between your lowest position and your highest position measured around or represented. It's not measured at your hip level, but around your hip level, meaning that the difference in between your lowest position of the hips and your highest position in the hips throughout your gait cycle, because of course you bounce in the air and you come back on the ground. The lower the better, meaning that if you can run, very steady and have very, very little vertical oscillation, it's in theory better. The higher the number, the bouncier the shoe. I think this is a good proxy for this. We're looking at 8.7, 8.69, 8.73, 8.68, 8.71, and 8.82. The shoe with which I had the lowest vertical oscillation is the Metaspeed Edge Tokyo, and the highest vertical oscillation was with the Puma Fast R-3. The bounciest, the most efficient, or the most, flat in terms of running, that's how you could look at it. Last but not least, we're looking at how much impact is generated on the lower body and on the body in general by each of the shoes. This is measured by units of body weight per second, meaning how much impact is applied by your body weight to the ground via the shoe, and how much impact you are suffering in a way. The lower, the better. We're looking at 85, 82, 72, 77, 73, 78. In theory, the shoe that provides with the lowest impact loading rate, meaning the less stress on your lower body, would be the Brooks Hyperion Elite 5. And I do agree, it feels smooth. This is the word I used initially in the video when I described the shoe. It is a smooth ride, and it's a ride that definitely does protect your legs. I feel like I'm also striking a bit more towards the heel with this shoe, and therefore I'm kind of rolling a bit more, and it's a bit more gentle. The shoe that has the highest number is the Adios Pro 4, with which I have a couple of things to say. The first one is, like I said, the aging of the foam. When a foam ages, it does stiffen and it does then create more impact because it doesn't absorb as much as it used to when it was fresh out of the box. This is one bias or caveat with this shoe. The second is that I feel like I'm running more towards the forefoot with this shoe, pushing a bit more, and therefore also having that more, let's say, aggressive impact on the forefoot and on the shoe itself. Now, the main question for you will be, based on all the metrics, thank you, Alex, for sharing, but what are you actually picking as the two shoes that you would compare with the foot path visualization tool? And the two shoes would be the two that you have here in the front for different reasons. Again, I really love running in the Adios Pro 4. I feel well in the shoe. I like it. I have good memories with my marathon PB in it in Berlin last year. And then the Metaspeed Edge Tokyo feels special. It feels much better than the other shoes. It feels superior, and I would pick these two to do the comparison, which I'm going to show you here on my screen in a second. What would you pick? Let us know in the comments. Have you tried some of them, all of them, and what would you choose if you had to pick two to do the comparison that I'm going to do here in a second? All right, so I'm now on the Stryd Power Center, and we're comparing these two shoes that, according to my test, were the better ones. And the ones that I like the most, I would probably hesitate in between these two if I had to run a marathon tomorrow, which thankfully I'm not doing. We have in a solid line the Adidas, and the dotted line is the Asics. What's interesting with the footpath visualization tool is that you can see everything in 3D, you can move around and you can check different things. If you will look at the two shoes laterally, the main thing that you would see is that the solid line goes a bit more forward, so I'm kind of extending my stride length with the Adios Pro 4, but the shape is very, very similar, meaning that I have the same gait cycle with the two shoes. There's not much information here. We're going to look at it from the rear with like as if the camera was following me from behind and you're seeing what's happening here. What's interesting with the rear perspective is that you can see the lateral dispersion of the two shoes. This is interesting in terms of stability, in terms of how condensed, how efficient you run. And here I think the interesting thing is that the Asics is a bit more condensed. With the Adidas, I'm going a bit more outwards, meaning I'm kind of, spreading my legs a bit more, opening the way I'm running, probably losing a bit of energy with this shoe. It was a bit slower, and that's maybe one of the explanations. In general, the two are similar, but I would say that the efficiency and the stability is probably more on the Asics side here. And then we're going to look at it from a top perspective, just to also show you that we can do it. And it shows some interesting things, I think. The Asics, I'm doing something weird with the Asics when I'm kind of coming back to the footstep, meaning that I have my back kick. Oh no, it's when I'm having my back kick. So I'm actually stepping, and then I'm doing some sort of like weird thing with the Asics. Is it a waste of energy? Probably. But in general, the two are fairly similar. Again, I think here you can see how more condensed the dotted line is, meaning that the Asics is a bit more condensed, efficient, stable. That's how I would analyze it. There's no right or wrong way to analyze it. Of course, specialists at Stryd would have a different view of what this means. But I think what's important for you is to compare things over time with the same shoe, seeing how you are coming back to injury, how your gait cycle is returning to a normal state, a benchmark that you have in time. Or even when you're comparing two shoes, it's to kind of match the feelings that you have, subjective feelings, with actual hard data and hard visualization on your Stryd Power Center. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have different views on these shoes, let me know in the comments. I would be very interested. And most importantly, thank you Stryd, not just for sponsoring this video, but in general for being such a good tool that I'm using for the past 7 years, I think. And finally, we started working with Stryd this year. It's a good coincidence, and it's actually a case where I'm using a tool, I believe in it, I am a true fan believer, and they're reaching out, we're having a great conversation, and they're great people, so thank you for that as well. I do recommend you to check it out at least, and maybe get one if you want to start training smarter and maybe better, who knows. Thanks for watching, enjoy your run today, enjoy your ride, go beyond your limits, and let's link to another Stryd video comparison. There's going to be more in the future, so stay tuned. Bye-bye.